No way I would be able to enter, even if this was my full-time job, to be able to enter 48 different trades, one at a time, by hand, place the stop orders, place the profit target orders, and not just be totally nuts.
Automating your zero DTE options trading sounds like a dream, but can it also be a nightmare? Today, we will unpack the risks, rewards, and how to do it right. And my guest, he built his own trade automation tool. Here is Kyle Leesman. Welcome, Kyle.
Thanks, John. It's exciting to be here.
Let's start with myself as an example. I've been trading zero DTE for several years with quite good results. Why would I want to automate my zero DTE trading?
So there's a couple of reasons. First and foremost for me was just I had a day job, and so I was not available to be watching the market, placing trades during the day, throughout the day, during the U.S. trading hours. So having software that was able to do a lot of that for me, place trades, monitor them during the day, take profits, do those sorts of things, was a big part of what I was looking for. Beyond that, it's a lot easier to stay disciplined, to stick with your plan, to be less emotional about what's happening during the trading day if you've got the software essentially running the trading plan for you and you're not having to make spur-of-the-moment decisions as you're watching candles go up and candles go down.
Tell us, before we dig into this, tell us a little bit about yourself as your own journey into options trading.
So I've been somebody who's been interested in investing for a long time. I owned my first mutual fund when I was a teenager with some money that I had made working as a kid. Found my way into options in the early 2000s when I was in college. Did some covered calls. That seems to be one of the first things that people do in the options world. Got away from it a little bit as I got married, got a full-time job, and found my way back into options trading, into the kind of the tasty trade world, and their 45 DTE trades, strangles, those sorts of trades, probably 2016, 2017. And from there was kind of plugged in to the options trading world. Eventually found my way from there into the zero DTE space, and that was something that really interested me, the ability to trade every day, have your results, your outcome, essentially happen right away. That, by the end of the day, by 3 o'clock, I was done. So it was definitely something that kind of captured my interest, and that's what I've been mostly trading ever since.
And you are a chief technology officer in a company, I understand, which probably explains why you built your own tool when you needed to automate it.
It does, yeah. I enjoy investing, but one of the other things that I really enjoy doing is computers, development, websites, those sorts of things is what I've spent a 20 plus year career working on. And so it was kind of a natural fit for me to merge those two interests of mine. And I had figured there had to be a way with APIs and the tools that the brokers provide that I could automate some of these actions and be able to take the actual physical trading and clicking of the buttons, off of my plate during the day.
So this was to make your own life easier.
100%. That's how lots of software and other businesses get started and get created, is a need that the owner, the founder had, and that's absolutely what happened here.
So we will get into the automation and how that is done. But first, zero DTE, what makes that different from other option trading strategies?
There's a few things. Like I mentioned, one of the benefits is just that it's so short, that you're trading today, you're closing your trades today. If that's all you're trading, then your account is in 100% cash at the close every evening. So there's no overnight risk, no worries about the market gapping one way or the other. If there was, some sort of news event that happens, overnight. So that definitely had some appeal to me. The other thing that's kind of nice about it from a data standpoint and just a numbers standpoint is you're able to trade so often. If you're trading once a day, or a lot of people are trading 5, 10 trade entries a day times 5 days a week times all year is you just get the number of occurrences of trades, gets very high very quickly, and that helps to smooth out the results and get you closer to the long-term averages that you're expecting.
So let's dig into trade automation and start with the basic question. What do we actually mean when we say trade automation?
To me, automation it's not a strategy in and of itself. It is just a way to implement a trading strategy that you already have, that you've back tested, that you're confident in and comfortable trading. But the automation, from my standpoint, is basically just clicking the buttons for you. So, when you're trading manually, you're in Thinkorswim or Tasty or Interactive Brokers and their platforms, and you're clicking this strike, clicking that strike, setting your entry price, adjusting the price to get your order filled. Then once you're in a trade, then you're placing stop orders, profit take orders. You're doing all of that manually, with your mouse and setting those prices. And it's definitely potentially prone to human error, misclicking, buying instead of selling, or, those sorts of things. So what automation can do for you is basically let you define how you want to do the trading, what you want to enter, what price you want to be at, what your stop loss and your profit targets are. And then the software, once the trading day hits, will place the orders, adjust the pricing, monitor the fills, place the stop orders, and essentially eliminate the time spent and the potential, for human error in actually, physically submitting the orders to your broker.
You developed a tool to help yourself, but later on it has developed. Today, Trade Automation Toolbox has a lot of retail traders as customers. And who is the typical retail trader that would like to start a tool like that?
I think they're probably a lot like I was. I think the people looking for automation, certainly the people, my earlier users, were people who are already typically fairly experienced options traders. They have strategies that they're comfortable trading, but like me, they had a day job or they have other obligations during the day and are not able to monitor the market, 6+ hours a day, and they were looking for something to help them actually implement that during the trading day.
So if I want to start automating my strategies, could you walk me through the process I need to do to set this up and to get going, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So my software, it's actually an installed solution. So you would sign up for an account on our website, download the software, run a quick installer, and once you've got it installed, open it up, connect it to your broker, whether it be Interactive Brokers. We also work with Tradier and TradeStation, and we'll be working with Schwab soon. Once you connect to your broker, it'll download your account information, and from there, you're ready to configure your strategy. What that entails essentially is there's lots of options that you may want to use, but big picture, it's selecting what type of trade you're trading, what DTE you're trading. We do support some shorter term DTEs, but the vast majority of my users use it for 0 DTE trading. But you configure the type of trade, the credit you're looking for, or deltas that you're targeting, how wide do you want your spread to be, what are your stop loss, profit target goals, or is there a scheduled time that you want the trades to close? And essentially you configure all of those things ahead of time, so the software knows what to do when the market's open and it's time to do your trading. You configure during the day what time you want your trades to enter, or we also have the ability to trigger trades via a webhook using an external charting or alerting service like TradingView, if you have some sort of other signals that you use to trigger when to trade. But the building blocks is defining ahead of time what is your trade, your template for this trade, what are your entry and your exit criteria.
Here's a hypothesis on my end, but I suspect that many of us think that our strategies are much clearer than they are in reality, at least when we are asked by your software to actually specify every piece of what we want to happen. Is that the correct assumption?
I would say that probably is a good assumption. And honestly, it's something that will make you define your strategy very, very specifically, because yeah, the computer will do what you tell it to do and only what you tell it to do. And so there's no, well, today I'm going to do it this way, tomorrow I'm going to do it that way. I'm going to look at the chart and see if I feel like it's going to go further up or come back down. The benefit of automating those things and setting all that up and making those decisions ahead of time, I think has been helpful for me. But you're right, it's definitely something that you will have to make sure you know how you want to trade, when you want to get in, when you want to get out. Otherwise, the computer's not going to make those decisions for you.
Are there things that we need to be particularly aware of when we use this type of software for zero DTE as opposed to longer term strategies?
The thing with automation for me is that it's not the end all be all. It's primarily a tool to save yourself time, save yourself the potential for human error when placing trades yourself. But it's not foolproof. It's not set it and forget it. It's not a money printer. The market is still a very challenging environment, changes from day to day and week to week. So it's not something that you're just able to set up once and just turn it on and come back, go on vacation, come back a month later and see how much money you made.
When setting this up, of course, you need to learn the software, which I suspect takes a bit of time and energy. But when setting up these rules for your zero DT strategies, are there any best practices that have developed?
I mean, to me, the biggest thing is to back test your strategy over various short-term, medium-term, longer-term periods of time. So going in kind of what sort of performance you're expecting. I also like to continue to forward test as I am trading, and trading live. I will monitor those results, on a weekly or monthly basis and compare them to the backtesting tools to see if what I'm getting in real life, is mirroring relatively closely what the backtest believes I should have had it happen during that same time frame.
And you also built your own backtesting tool.
I did. So that's really kind of where this started. Back in probably 2020, like I said, I'd heard of zero DTE. I had seen some videos and been in, a Facebook group and some Discord groups with other traders. I know you've had, I think, Tammy on your show at least once before, and she had done a lot of manual back testing in those days. They're in just a few seconds. So I know she had done a lot of manual testing, and that was kind of what I was basing the morning trades that I was placing before I went to work on, what she had found using, I think, 5-minute data with Option Net Explorer at the time. And I knew, again, being a software guy, that I could probably, if I could get a hold of the pricing data, that I would be able to, to automate that, go back through, follow the option pricing through the day and figure out what my results would have been, just to kind of, if I was going to commit a decent amount of, of my savings into these investments, that I wanted to feel comfortable and confident in, the kind of returns that were possible. And so I was able to acquire the data from CBOE at 1-minute resolution, and then later actually tick level intra-minute data, and build out a software tool. We call it BYOB, Build Your Own Backtest. And again, that's something that I made available for free for other people, trading similarly in the communities that I was in, to be able to do the same thing, where they could set, what price they wanted to target, how wide they wanted their spreads, what sort of stop loss levels did they want to test, and make it easy to quickly test a bunch of those variables, and then be able to narrow down how they wanted to trade.
I guess there are a couple of schools of trading, or many schools actually, but some traders are very mechanical, have a very clear written rules for everything they want to do, while others are more, let's say, discretionary. They like to read how the market is developed that day and take the decision based on the actual picture at the moment. Is there any space left for discretion with this type of tool?
I would say that depends totally on the trader and how you like to trade. For me, I found pretty quickly that I was not very good at doing that. And then, deciding if the market was going up from here or down from here. And when I tried to do that and made my trading decisions based on what I thought was going to happen, sometimes it worked out, other times it didn't. But there are other people who are very good at that and who are much better than me at it. And so I think there is room for some of that discretion in automated trading. My software does allow you to do a lot of that if you choose to. You, again, define kind of how you want to manage the trade in those templates ahead of time, but you have the ability to trigger an instant trade at any point during the day if you see, price action going one way or the other, and you say, oh, well, I want to, put my put spreads in now. You can do that, click the button. The software will still handle the order entry process for you, placing the stop once the trades get placed, but you do have that discretion to be able to trigger those when you'd like. There are a lot of people as well who, once the trades will open, will manage them using the software and the automation during the day. It's very, usually just 1 or 2 clicks to be able to close a trade that's open, change the stop price, change your profit target. If a lot of people will tighten their stops down later in the day as they're in the spreads they've sold decayed. They'll bring their stops in to break even, or even down to 20 or 30 cents maybe, just to make sure that they've locked that profit in if things happen to turn around. So there's definitely the ability again, those sorts of things can be automated if you make those decisions ahead of time, but there's definitely space to be making those tweaks during the day once positions are open, if that's how you like to manage things.
But there is no trading without risks, and I guess that also goes with using a tool like this. What's the worst that can happen, that can go wrong?
There's definitely risk involved in trading. That's, without risk, there would be no reward. But as far as the software is concerned, I mean, the worst case scenario for any zero DTE trader is that something catastrophic happens. The market, jumps 100 points and gets all the way past your positions, and you end up looking at potentially at a full loss. That's possible whether you have automation watching your software or not. We can't control how the market moves. Beyond that, any automation tool is still a piece of software that, potentially could have a bug, could have some sort of connectivity problems. You're still depending on not only the automation software, but the broker's software. There's, the stops and things that are held on their servers. 99 point, some percent of the time, everything works fine, handles everything that comes up during the day, and there are no issues. But in the end, it's still the trader's responsibility to monitor their account, their trading. Most of the automation platforms, again, are very good at monitoring those things for you, sending alerts and those sorts of things. If something unexpected happens, there's a connectivity problem, or the position doesn't close as expected. But the bottom line is it is still the trader's account. It's their money that's at risk, and I would 100% recommend keeping an eye on things during the day, just to be sure that everything is executing as expected.
If we move back a few weeks to, I believe it was April 9, when President Trump announced the pause in the tariffs, and the market jumped, I believe it was like 9 or 10% in a few minutes. How did automating tools handle that specific event?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't think I ended up making money on that day because, not surprisingly, all of my trades on the call side stopped out on that huge jump. One of the things that was very important to me when writing Trade Automation Toolbox was to make sure that it was handled things as safely as possible, and that once trades were entered, that as little depended on my software as possible. So anytime you open a trade and it's set up to have stop loss orders, those orders are submitted to the broker servers immediately as the position is open. So even if there was a problem with your internet, or the power at your house, or wherever you're running my automation software, those stop orders have already been submitted to Interactive Brokers or to TradeStation, and so they'll still get executed even if there was a software problem. So on that day with those big moves up, my stops were already in, had been sitting on the broker servers for hours at that point by the time that move happened in the afternoon. And obviously the trade stopped out with probably a little higher than average slippage as quickly as that move was, but it was still well within the expected range of what a stop could fill for. And so it was, while the move was outsized and very unusual, the results for that day were still very typical.
But as the developer of a platform, you feel, of course, responsible for all your customers who are basically trading their money through your platform. What is your nightmare scenario as the owner and developer of the platform?
Yeah, that is a good point. I definitely do feel some responsibility for that. I appreciate that people trust me and my software to help them invest their hard-earned money. So I think every day as I'm making changes, adding to the software, about basically safety first, worst case scenarios, making things as redundant as possible, adding as much monitoring as possible so that if anything unexpected happens, the software can deal with it, can handle it, can notify the user, can do all of those things to try to mitigate and eliminate as many risks as possible. Again, nothing is, in the software world is ever 100% perfect, just because of the nature of things and how, what might happen. But I've been as careful as possible to try to handle as many of those one-off scenarios as we can, and to make sure to be able to notify the user in the event that anything unexpected happens.
But if I understand you correctly, as a trader, it's not 100% set and forget. We need to still monitor what's happening throughout the day, even though the trades are automatically placed for us.
I would definitely say yes. One of the benefits for me is that I don't have to watch the trading, watch the market action and things, minute by minute if I don't want to. Obviously, if that's what you're doing, you're a full-time trader, you enjoy doing that, or trading discretionarily, then you certainly can do that. But it allows you some level of being able to remove yourself from the minute by minute action during the day. But you definitely do still want to keep an eye on things. My kind of typical workflow is that I've got my email open at work during the day, so I know typically when my trades are scheduled to enter, and so I will see those emails. I get an email confirmation from the software every time a position opens. So without necessarily watching the market or seeing how the trades are performing, I'm still able to see those emails come in at each time I have a scheduled entry, and seeing those is kind of a lower touch way to still have an eye on things, make sure that trading is going on as expected. I also would encourage people, and I typically, 10 or 15 minutes before the market closes, I would sign in, make sure everything again was working as expected. I have some trades that have scheduled exits a few minutes before the close, so I like to sign in before those trigger and just make sure everything works as expected. And I very, very rarely have ever had to intervene or do anything manually. It's almost always just watching those orders go in, watching those positions close, and basically seeing how the day went and getting that that immediate feedback that 0DTE gives you every time the closing bell rings.
You touched on this now, but I'm curious. Can you elaborate a bit more how you yourself use Trade Automation for your 0DTE? What type of strategies are you running? How you set up your own trading throughout the day?
Yeah, of course. So I primarily do two approaches to 0DTE trading. I trade iron condors throughout the day, a number of entries where iron condor being where you're selling both the put spread and the call spread. in a delta neutral fashion, hoping the market, stays relatively calm and will stay between your strikes and let those expire at the end of the day. In addition, and kind of as a complement to that, I also do some trend following trading where I'm entering just one side, either puts or calls, depending on what the moving averages are doing during the day. So if the market is moving up, I'll be selling put spreads. If it's turning back down, then I'll be selling call spreads. And I kind of like the combination of those two sorts of approaches, because one will do better on a range bound day with little movements, but on big trending days where the market heads up or down all day, having those trend following trades will help to offset some of the stops from the iron condors getting stopped out on one side.
How often do you log in during the day on your broker platform?
I typically don't. I mean, it's signed in, and I have the platform open on, I've got a few monitors set up, but I honestly don't, like I said, I don't watch it during the day. If things go well, I'm working away. I've got my email open. I'm seeing my trade open confirmations come in as expected. And as long as all of that happens the way it normally does, then usually I'll make it to 2:45 Central Time, 15 minutes before the close, and that's the first time I'll sign in and even know if SPX is up or down on the day-to-day.
How many trades do you typically place in a day with these two strategies?
So I run, I think, 24 iron condor entries through the day, and I believe 20 trend following trades. So I've got about 48 trades, and then 68 if you count the puts and calls separately once the iron condors get entered. So I'm firing, I've some of them, happen. It's not 100% spread out evenly throughout the day. I've got some trades in the morning, some in the mid-morning, more later in the afternoon, but yeah, I have trades going in all day. And again, like I mentioned earlier in the call, I like the ability to take lots of smaller positions throughout the day, which is really the automation software allows that to happen. There's no way I would be able to enter, even if this was my full-time job, to be able to enter 48 different trades, one at a time by hand, place the stop orders, place the profit target orders, and not just be totally nuts, and done with it by the end of the day. So the automation definitely allows for spreading things out much more widely throughout the day than I would be able to if I was doing all this trading by hand.
How have your results been?
They've been good. So yeah, I've been trading zero DTE using the automation platform. It's almost 3 years old now. It was about this time in 2022 where I first started writing it and was using it myself. I have made 30-40% on the buying power I've used, I think, each year that I've been doing it. It's like I said, it's no guarantee, and things don't work every day or every week or even every month. But I think if you're trading at a size that you're able to trade through some of those weeks and months where things don't go as well as others, and be consistent and disciplined over the long term, it's still a strategy where there is some edge in the volatility risk premium that you're selling with short zero DTE premium trades. One of the things I will mention and definitely encourage people to do is Interactive Brokers, TradeStation, and Tradier all have paper trading platforms that are compatible with their trading APIs, and Trade Automation Toolbox is able to work with those. So my recommendation for people when they first get started is 100% start in their paper trading environment. That way you're able to set up your trade templates, your entry and your exit criterias in an environment where you're not going to lose any money if you misunderstood something, or you typed 50 instead of 5 for your stop multiple or something. You'll be able to see those things happen in paper trading or simulation accounts, and be able to catch those configuration errors before they might happen at trading live.
So let's sum up a bit. What would you say are the most important pros and cons, and who would you say that automating ZeroDT is most suitable for?
So I would say for me, the biggest pro is probably just the amount of time that you can save. Again, being able to enter, you know, a half dozen, a dozen, 2 dozen trades a day and have those things just happen. And even if you're watching them, you're still not having to do the clicking and, enter all those things manually. So it's a tremendous amount of time that can be saved and, reducing the potential for human error. So that's, I think, probably the big appeal for automation. And on top of that, for people who have a day job in the U.S. during market hours, being able to have the automation, doing the trade entries, and setting all of your orders up again is probably the main driver that have people looking at automation. Some of the cons potentially is I think sometimes people will see people talk about trading, videos on YouTube and how well it's going and how easy it is, and think that it's just, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to do exactly what I saw this person say they were doing. I'm going to set it up. It's going to do all these things and just make me a bunch of money. And I'll come back after a week and after a month and it'll have been great. And that's definitely, there may be a week where things work really well like that, but there will definitely be weeks where it doesn't. And so I think it might be easy to trade too large, especially with with options and spreads. It's easy to misunderstand the amount of leverage that you're taking and the amount of actual positions that can be put on with the buying power you have available. So I definitely caution people to start small and to start slow and build up as they grow their confidence in their trading plan and in how their automation tool is implementing it for them.
Kyle, what are good sources to learn more about trade automation?
So I would probably personally would love to point people at our website, and we have a Discord community of users that is pretty active and talk about all things trading, ZeroDTE, automation. Obviously, people are great at helping one another with questions with our software in particular, and also with just trading in general, trading strategies. There are a number of other groups. The Tasty Trade Facebook group is one of the places I started and made a lot of contacts. There are other Discord groups, a number of trading communities out there, and I've found that trading sometimes can be a lonely business, particularly in real life. Not a lot of people that you come in contact with during your day-to-day life are trading the way that we are and are interested or understand frankly what puts and calls and options and ZeroDTE and that don't understand what we're doing there. So I've definitely found it's a very positive thing to have a community of people.
You have been trading options for quite some time. Would you have a couple of good books to recommend about options trading?
The one I definitely would point out is called Trading in the Zone by, I believe it's Mark Douglas, and it's very much about the kind of the mindset of trading, dealing with the psychology of winning days, losing days, and I think it paired nicely with the automation and the ability to be more disciplined in your trading that the software provides.
And if you want to dig deeper into trade automation, we also have an interview with Scott Clark from another company offering this type of tool, Trade Steward. The link will pop up on the screen. Please take the time to subscribe to our channel if you like this video. Kyle, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge about automating your ZeroDTE trading.
Of course, John. Thanks for your time. I enjoyed it.